He might not be from Krypton, but he's heads above the rest. His knowledge can't be questioned. You can put it to the test. So if you want to hear the truth and have nowhere else to go, I'll give you the solution. Just tune into his show and just kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod.
And welcome back, everybody, to the most earth-breaking, ground-shaking, but never media show money-taking unless it's moviepalette.com. The man, the myth, the legend, the most electrifying villain in YouTube entertainment today, General Zod. And, yeah, I have to throw that caveat in because I never expected my channel would ever get sponsors, but here we are. Someone looked at my format and they were like, you know, that guy is good for us. So
Nice.
yeah,
Dude.
it's so weird when you get the sponsor ads and you're like, oh, like I never thought in a million years that you know, I'd ever be sponsored. So thank you to moviepalettes.com. Speaking of which, I'll get that out of the way. Go check out moviepalettes.com. You looking for a good Christmas gift? Well, with moviepalettes.com, they will take a movie, which we'll be talking about today. They'll take a movie and they take the color scheme of that movie. They put it on a wooden frame with a beautiful background, and it's literally the colors of the film. I find it very unique, which is why I'm glad they're sponsoring me. And they literally have every movie you could think of, except for maybe these new 2022 movies. Some of them they might not have yet, but most of them they do, like Jaws and all these other movies I never thought they'd have. So go check it out. Enter promo code ZONE15, which is links are on the bottom. And yeah, they make a good Christmas gift. So go get one. And thank you for sitting through my sponsor plug.
Hell yeah.
With us today, he's no stranger to the channel, and I'd like to think of us, hopefully, as friends, given to what we're talking about, because Jesus Christ, I don't want to get on this guy's bad side. Mr. Killjoy Jake, welcome to the channel. How are you doing? How is everything?
Oh, dude, everything's great, man. I'm having a good day. I don't know. I'm just things are good right now. You know, just put out a movie, big 10-month project coming to an end, which is nice. So got a lot of weight off the shoulders. But it's nice. It's good stuff. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know, we will be talking about that movie today. I'm excited because I never thought I'd get a chance to interview like somebody who actually did a movie. So this is exciting for me as well. I'm gonna dive deep into his psyche and get all of the like, how is this done? How is that done? I'm really looking forward to that. But before I get started with that, hello Lemon Pie, hello Kiefer, hello Aaron, and anybody else who joins, anybody else who clicks or who might just stumble across this, check out the links below. Go check out this man's short film. And I do say film in every context of the film because thank God he brought it back to the golden ages where we had like an hour and something movies and not like 2 hours of me going, okay, I need to like, this needs to end. Like it felt like good old 90s. We're doing an hour and then bam, beginning, middle, and end, and go home. We're done. No big credits, no post-credit scenes. Just a good old fashioned bam, this is the movie, and then we're good. But before we get started, because I don't want to shortchange everyone, because I know in the filmmaking process there are other people involved. You have other people in the film. I don't know how much they did with helping us out, or if someone penned the script or something. So I guess the first thing to start off with was who are the people involved, and was this a collaborated thing? Did one person do a script? were you brought on board as someone, or did you have a hand in the creative process? Like, how did that all come about? And could you explain that to the audience?
Yeah. We all the way back in 2020, like very late 2020. I was doing my horror channel, and it was kind of just like blowing up with all the Scream stuff. I was kind of talking about Scream updates, and it was just a lot of fun. And I saw Jimmy Champagne did a. Oh yes, thank you, Lemon Pie. I appreciate that.
Lemon Pie is always on it.
Nice.
And hello, Christine.
Hello. Yeah, so I saw Jimmy Champagne, who's another awesome YouTuber out there. He covers like Halloween stuff. He posted a fan film himself, like on Halloween. I just thought that was really cool, and I wanted to do something Scream related. That was like my big thing at the time. So I'm like, I'll do a little like proof of concept for something, and we put that out. It has like 11,000 views right now, and then we got it funded all the way back in Kickstarter, and on Kickstarter this past March. And then we just went nuts, start making this whole thing for the past like 10 or so months. It's been a blast though. We had a script written all the way before that. Me and the co-writer Matt Schuff wrote the script, and we also both directed it. And we're also the guys, both of us, at the very beginning of the movie too. So, yeah.
And I find that interesting because whenever I do these things, and I always get nervous because I know even if you're talking independent film or big Hollywood blockbuster, there's a reason why there's so many credits at the end of a movie. It's because, there takes a lot of time and effort that goes into making a film. It's not just one person, it's several people.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have your directors and writers and even your leads who seem to get all of the glory. But a lot of people forget there's also a lot of other people who see it and they go like, yeah, I want to play this role. Like you've enticed me. I want to do this, right? Because you gotta get the people together, and it takes a lot more than just one or two people. And so once you guys came up with this, what was the process of then finding people to fill out the other roles? Because you got several other people in this movie as you go along. So did they come to you, or did you have some friends and you were like, oh, you'd be great for this, and give them a try? Or how did that, I guess, the casting process go when beginning this movie?
Well, so going back to the proof of concept in 2021, we just put out like a little. I just wanted to put out a little short. I was like, yeah, let's just put this thing out. It'll be fun. And it's literally just me killing Matt. Like it's nothing crazy. It was just like a little chase scene and a kill. And we put it out, and I'm just like. But I just kept writing. I was like, this is a cool story, though. I'm like, I can see this going places. I've always wanted to see what it would be like to from like a Scream movie from the killer's perspective and all that. So I just kept writing, and we had this whole script by the end of 2021, and we're like, we got to get this funded. Like, this is good. We really like this. And what I ended up doing was I kind of reached out to some other collectives in like some other filming collectives in the Northeast Ohio area. Like that's where I'm from. I'm like based in Cleveland. And I reached out to a few people, Olive Branch, that's run by Andrew Oliver, who ended up editing our movie and also did some of the original score. And then I also reached out to Zomleader Studios, which is run by Sean Norris, like Christian Peralta's part of that too. They're all people that were involved in the movie. And I ended up getting all of them attached to this project as well. It was kind of just like forming the Avengers or whatever, like something as stupid as that sounds. I just kind of like found people, and I'm like, we should all just make a movie. Let's do this. We all just hung out a few times, and I got them to read the script, and they're like, yeah, let's do this. That'd be awesome. So we ended up, yeah, we got it funded, and then $5,000 was not enough to make a feature length film, but somehow we cranked it out, and yeah, now it's out. It's crazy. I mean, it seems like the last 10 months seems like a blur to me, but somehow we got it done. Somehow we did it.
Now, and this comes from critiquing so many movies. My critical mind wanted to be harsh on certain aspects because that's what I do, as you know, and you do the same thing.
Yeah.
But then I also have to remember, man, $5,000 and not that many people. And then it dawned on me how impressive that was, because like we hear like someone like Damon Leone and these people who do that, but even them, they got millions. You know what I mean? I don't think, like, you can't comprehend how much, like, me knowing how movies are shot and everything, like, what you're working with is not a great deal of money. That is like really pinching your pennies. Um, so I guess my next question was, and I'm gonna get into certain scenes that really stuck out to me, where I was like, "Wow, how did he do that without the, big screen stuff? What kind of wizardry did you use?" But uh, like, one, did you shoot on location? And if you did, what were the things that you had to do in order to conserve your money and really, I guess, get your get the biggest bang for your buck? Like, what were some things that you guys were doing and some challenges you were faced with? Because I would almost akin this to like Sam Raimi when he first did Evil Dead, right? We
Oh,
all know
dude,
the
well,
legendary story of that. Like, people were poor, they were sleeping in their vehicles. That was like, uh, they had, back then the same kind of restrictions, thousands of dollars. We're not talking about millions. Raimi did that with thousands. So, what were the things you guys were doing, and how did that also impact the things you wanted to do versus what you could realistically do?
well, to kind of answer that question, we did have to cut some stuff out of the movie too. Like there was an entire subplot about a cop. I've talked about this a bit on a different stream, but like basically there was a cop that kind of catches on to Jamie at one point, and then like it all leads into like this whole ending thing. It didn't really ending up going anywhere. It was kind of just like, oh, I want to add a Dewey-esque character to this, or a Dr. Loomis. Essentially, that was kind of the whole idea behind it. We couldn't really find an actor to portray the character, and I don't know. It didn't really end up going anywhere. It was just the whole idea that the cops were kind of onto him the whole time, and then showed up at the end after he died, and then saved Maya's character Drew. But spoiler alert, I guess I should say. So, big spoilers, big spoilers. So we weren't. There was a lot of stuff we weren't able to do, which is unfortunate. It probably would have been a full 90 minutes if we were. And once again, if it's all just comes down to the budget. If we could have hired an actor to play that character, and been able to get afford permits to go and film in like a police station or something that looked like a police station, that would have been awesome. I would have loved to have done something like that, but it just wasn't in the realm of possibility. I mean, if you go back and watch that movie, there's like five, I think I'm gonna say like there's like five houses in total that you go to, and it's really played by two houses the whole time, really. We just used different, like we sectioned off different rooms, and we're like, okay, this is going to be Christian's house, this is the garage, but this part of the house is going to be Jamie's room where we film all that stuff. So like, yeah, it's we just made these Frankenstein houses and layouts, and we were like writing things out. We're like, okay, so this house's room we'll be using for this and all that. Yeah, it's the whole movie's really only, we really only shot it in like two houses and a few scenes on Baldwin Wallace's campus, which is just that's a college just around here. And yeah, I mean, it was crazy, and I'm honestly the most proud of the fact that we were able to do that without having to get any permits, and to just be able to make it still look like it's we were able to do a lot of world building with it that I'm really proud of, even with so little resources and locations. So I know, like like you were saying, there is some stuff about it that's rough. Like I said, I wish we could have used multiple different locations, made some stuff flow a little better, but I'm still proud of a lot of the things we were able to accomplish with it, and that element of it being one of those things.
And I'm gonna get into my reasonings for why it's still like, even though it's rough, I could give a pass. There's certain movies when I watch them I can give a pass to because I understand the craftsmanship and I feel the intent of the filmmakers, and the fact that I genuinely have a fun time with the movie. Like, for instance, say Black Adam, right? Not the word. It's not setting the superhero market on fire. It actually lost money, but that maintains as one of my favorite movies that came out because of the intent behind it. Because when I watch it, I feel the passion from the people doing it, and there's a certain giddiness that I get. So maybe I'll overlook some things that are very clear flaws. It would be like, but you know what? For me, I liked it for what it was, and I got that sense watching your film. Like, this is really fun and the potential is there, and it's like I can see how you have to start somewhere, and there's always a point where you can go back and take everything that you've learned from your first experience, because you have to do it first, right? and kind of learn, okay, what worked the first time, what didn't work, and then kind of tool it up. James Cameron just didn't start and went, hey, I'm now gonna make the Titanic. That's not how that works. He was like, he did Piranha 2. Okay, so little sidebar if you guys didn't know. Yeah, he was very broke. He didn't even get credit for that movie, as a matter of fact, and was kicked off a week after, so the actual director can do what he wanted to do with that film. So a little bit of cinema trivia for you guys. But so yeah, everybody has a starting point, and this is one of the better starting points that I have seen in watching like these kind of independent films. It's a really good place to start, and I'm going to get into what I like, because there's one thing you do that instantly won me over, and I'll tell everyone the scene because it's fucking hilarious, and anyone who's a fan of the movie gets the reference, and it's probably my favorite scene in the movie. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge fan of this movie, and when you made that reference, I was sitting fucking cracking up, laughing my ass off, because I got it immediately, and I was like, that is brilliant. And it's not derivative or ripping off. It's very stylish in how you do it, but if you're a fan, you get the reference. So it's very Scream-esque, because a good Scream movie doesn't rip off the pop culture reference. It kind of pays a homage to it. Like, they might do something similar, but it's done in a unique way. And I was like, you guys you guys have it down. You get it. So before I keep on going, Tim, what's up? He says on my left. A little in joke there. So thank you. On your left, we have Rose. Welcome, Rose. Everybody saying they're glad I'm starting earlier. I know we haven't been on a lot. Life. I got promoted I'm working towards kitchen supervisor. I got a promotion, so it's a little bit harder these days to to YouTube and do this and Christmas, and it's just a nightmare. Like, the end of the year. Plus, I have my top 5 movies that I had to cut down, which we're doing tonight. So check that out. It's been a rough end of the year. Is always rough. But anyways, getting back to the film. So I just want to dive right in, and I'm a little schizophrenic in my thoughts because I'm so excited. And a bit of a spoiler, I would recommend you go check this out. But for the sake of really picking your brain about this, my favorite scene in this movie is when your character, Jamie, makes a reference to one of my favorite horror movies that I feel is truly an underrated Christian Bale performance. And you do an American Psycho reference, and it is so fucking hilarious because you use Limp Bizkit as the musical reference. Now, the funny part about this is, if you know the character of Christian Bale in the movie, he plays like the news and things like that. He uses like older music and talks about different things before he kills people, and you kind of play homage to that, but with Limp Bizkit. So it's rolling in the background while you're killing someone. I laughed out loud. And was this always something you planned? How much did you ad-lib? Was this always in the script? Like, what is Jamie's mindset, and how did you come to some of the scenes that he does in this film? Like, when you were diving into playing this character, what was the things you wanted to bring out? Like, was he commentary about the way horror movie fans can be fanatical, or like, what were you thinking when you formed him, and was this always part of the plan? As
the most scripted scene of the entire movie
see you,
is
Kristen.
see ya. Peace out. Yeah, the most scripted scene of the whole movie is the American Psycho sequence because it like that had to be perfectly like the a kind of not a replication, but I wanted it to be so similar to it. I wanted to make sure everyone got the reference to that while also doing something new with that same idea. So with Jamie's character, the whole idea is that a lot of his kills are they're pretty dumb or hypocritical or it's ripping from something else. That was the whole theme of his character was that he's not very original, but he wants that fame and the glory that these directors like Ryan Johnson have with like the new Stab film, for instance. Like so he's always constantly belittling Ryan Johnson throughout the runtime of the movie. And he's saying like Stab 8 sucked, like only troglodytes liked that movie, and he's saying all this nasty stuff, but he can't come up with an original idea. That was like the big like ethos behind that scene essentially. And I think the big thing with it, why we chose Limp Bizkit too, there was kind of like two big reasons behind that. It was because like to base it off of the American Psycho, like the actual scene from that movie, he's talking about Huey Lewis in the News, which is just such a normie, like regular pop music at the time. Like everybody knows about Huey Lewis. To geek out about it seems a little weird, you know. It seems like you really want to fit in if you're really into Huey Lewis. And with Limp Bizkit, it's kind of the opposite. Like they're not that popular. Most people would probably say that they suck. You know what I mean? And for him to geek out about it says that like he just really likes anything that people typically don't like, and he wants to be a fan of that so that he can stick out. And it ends up kind of driving him a little bit insane, like down a path of madness. And that was kind of like the big idea behind that. Why we made that change instead of just doing like Huey Lewis again or just another band. That was all purposeful and telling to his character. I think one of my favorite things about Red Right Hand is nothing is like directly said about a character like in your face. Like everything's kind of you gotta like find it in the scenes and stuff. Like everything, even though everything seems very silly and like over the top and all that, it's all very purposeful too. And so you can just enjoy it like as a popcorn movie and it's like, this is ridiculous, this is like totally insane, batshit crazy, but there's also like kind of a message underneath all of those scenes too, which I think is like just another little fun thing that adds a rewatchability element to it. So I don't know, it's fun. It's a fun scene. I love it, man.
and I gotta say, I might have to rewatch because now that you bring that up, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't think about, because the hints are there. And I got the gist, like just watching it, you kind of get the gist of who your character is, right? Especially I picked up on the Ryan Johnson thing, which by the way, my friend who PB, I told him, yeah, you gotta watch this. He's definitely gonna appreciate that because he hates Ryan Johnson, if you know. PB,
Oh, yeah.
huge Star Wars fan, so he hates Ryan Johnson. So I think he'll like that. But I also like how that has a duality to it, like you said. And now thinking about the events, yeah, he's very much a person. And it's also, if you want to take it on an even deeper level, kind of telling of the culture of you, me, anybody who does YouTube critiques or anything else like that. There are a certain subsection and fans who will sit there and bash something and think they can do it better. But when you're in that position to, okay, come up with something better, like write something creative. Like a lot of the people wouldn't be able to. We're all critics until we got to do it, right? We can all sit there. I don't know how many people you see, and I'm guilty of this too. You go into a movie, you watch the coming attractions, right? And we're all mini critics, like, that looks like it sucks. I'm not gonna go see that, right? But there we go. We're making preconceived judgments off of like, minute long trailer, and we have no idea how the rest of the film plays out. So it's very telling too to the way the culture has become, to where some arguments, and you and me have been in these predicaments multiple times, where they just get knocked down, drag out, ugly. You can't have one constructive criticism
Yeah.
without being demonized by one side of the base or the other. Conversely, if you try to side with something, you'll also get hammered. Like, I like Black Panther 2. A lot of people don't. And I hated Black Panther 1, so I'm like on this island. And it's the same thing with Halloween Ends. I know your feelings, but I feel different. And then you got the group of people who could talk about it, and then you just got these really nasty, really just visceral people who can't hold a decent conversation. So I think that a lot of that comes out in the character you created, where it's like he wants to surpass this image of this Stab 8, which, wow, the Scream universe just hates Stab 8. I like that it's right in Johnson too. Um, and so it's a really cool, just across the Scream franchise in general, to see that kind of like, yeah, horror fans, you give them these perfect things and then they expect a replica constantly. They don't, and they bitch when you replicate it, but then they bitch if you go in a different direction, and it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And it's a really no-win scenario. And I like the fact that you guys tackle that, but also there's that fun goofiness that if you just want to watch this and don't want to go for the subtextual meaning of it all and what they're trying to say, you could just sit down and watch this. And I wanted to commend you on that, because I've talked about it and you've talked about so many movies get ruined by the message, right? No matter what the message is, the message ruins films constantly. And it's cool to see, especially somebody who does this, I think, is more equipped to realize, like, hey, I talk about this, so how can we do this in a way where I could still put down what I believe but not make it the whole movie? So when writing this, and you're writing with someone else, how did you guys avoid the pitfalls of falling into the traps that even a lot of big name directors will fall into? Like, how did you guys avoid putting your biases in it and take yourself out? Because I know Jamie reminded me a lot of how you are when you when you cast and you do something. He's got that same energy, and they say the best characters are always a little bit of a reflection of the actor themselves, and I could see a lot of that character, that you imbued a lot of that. But how did you also pull yourself back, because you also have to be like a psychotic serial killer?
There was a lot of like apologizing between takes, because like I kind of, with Jamie, I brought out a lot of the elements that I just like I hate in people who you can't have a civil conversation with them. Like I tried to like really narrow down all of those elements of like things that really bug me, like into the greatest, most like specific or whatever, the most specific things, the most specific elements of like people that you just simply can't have a conversation with, people you can't reason with. And I tried to narrow that all down into Jamie. There is definitely a bit of myself in there, but I don't want to admit that. I want to very much separate myself from that character, because I never, like, the idea behind that character was, this is the person I never want to be. I never want to transform into this character. And so I put a lot of that in there. I remember when we were filming the whole ending sequence with Maya Krieger, who plays Drew, I was just apologizing to her the entire time. Like, I just felt so bad. I was like, I'm sorry I'm saying all this crazy shit to you. And she's like, no, it's great. Like, keep it coming, you know? And I'm like, I just still feel weird. Like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, no, it's fine. Like, harass me. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And I'm just like, oh my God, you know? It was really stressful, but it came out really fun. And talking about like the writing process a little more with me and Matt, like he specifically was like really big on enhancing stuff that I had already written. Like I would give him a draft of certain scenes and he'd be like, that doesn't really work. Like, let me write this in. And then he would write something to kind of fix something. I'm like, oh, wow, that's actually great. He wrote all of the Devil Ghostface dialogue right in the middle of the movie. And I think it's fantastic. There's some of my favorite lines of the movie are right there. And our voice actor, Blake Early, was just killed it with doing the Roger L. Jackson impression too. But I think a big thing when you're writing a movie with somebody else, it's not just you, is you got to be able to kill your darlings. Like there was moments where there was one particular moment, one big thing, how the movie ended, that me and Matt really disagreed on. Like we did not know which way we wanted to take it. It was the reveal of who the killer is. We want like, I think at first we ended up going with Matt's idea because I think it's way better. But at first I wanted who the person ends up being to have a whole speech and to be like, this is why they were doing it. But I like that it's a little more open-ended now. That was more Matt's idea, and we ended up going with that instead. And I think it was for the better. It wouldn't have made sense for that character to do the whole typical Scream villain speech, because it's just not what that character was all about. It was like they kind of just want to see the world burn, and they don't really give a fuck about anything else. So I don't think it would make sense for them to start gloating right in front of somebody, you know what I mean? So we ended up choosing the ending we went with, and I'm much happier with that than what we had written in the past, I guess. So you got to be able to kill your darlings. You got to be able to try to see things from other people's perspectives and just try to ultimately get down to what is best for this story.
And that's the interesting thing, because when you look at really big filmmakers, a lot of pitfalls. And like, for instance, I'm going to go back a lot to DC because, villain, and that's the name. But like, if you look at a Patty Jenkins, right, and you see Wonder Woman versus Wonder Woman 84, and you see that she said there was a bit of a hold on what she wanted to do, but that enhanced the movie. Except for Warner Bros. Doing the Warner Bros. Thing and saying we need a big CGI fight. Most of that movie is brilliant because it's a very personal character study. And I feel like now watching 84 that came from whoever was assisting Patty Jenkins, kind of going like, hey, you need to scale this down. You need to rein yourself in. And why are we doing this? Why does this make sense? Hey, Sean B., good to see you. Welcome. I am interviewing Killjoy Jake. If you're just joining us, we're talking about his very first movie, Red Right Hand, which I have been watching over the last couple of days to prepare because I wanted to have concise notes. Because I work and working sucks. Anyways, but no, like, you could see where another writer came in and said, "Hey, Patty, let's not do a mall scene where Wonder Woman rescues a kid with a lasso because it doesn't make any sense. What is Pedro Pascal doing?" Like, there was nobody on that project. Oh, thank you, dear. There's nobody on that project who I felt reined her in, and you can see the different processes. So having a co-writer doesn't necessarily make it a weakness, but it also, because we can't look at our own flaws, it gives a different perspective and is like, hey, this is good, but why don't we try this? And that shows like a willingness to be flexible and to be willing to adapt to what could make your project better and not necessarily hinder you, because we're all great artists in our own mind, but you need somebody to rein you in and be like, hey, this doesn't make sense considering this happened, and then you're like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Because you're just kind of like, because I do writing for like short stories and stuff, and I've gotten to a point where I think something is good and I let someone else read it and they're like, that really doesn't make sense to what you just set up before. And then you go through and you think about it and you're like, yeah, you're just kind of writing and you're getting all of these ideas out, and it's good to have that coherent thing that brings it in. So my other question was the shots, and I wanted to talk about a shot in particular that threw me off, where I was like, I see big budget films that get this wrong. So you do a shot in the beginning where you kind of like make it look cinematic, where the cars are going by and there's like a pan out and it's like just the town and the landscape and everything. Was that edited or was that shot? Because it was driving me crazy. I couldn't figure out if it was stuff that you shot, or maybe you did it a different like aerial shot or something, or if that was edited in a particular way to make it look that way. Like, how did you do that like opening scene? Because at first I thought it was going to be like film student, but then I showed some of your trailer to my wonderful lady, and she goes, he needs filters for some of this because it looks too and then the filters came in later.
Yes,
so like
yeah.
So how did you do that outside shot where the words come in and stuff like that, but you show the whole like area and what you're dealing with?
So we filmed all that with a drone, thanks to Eric from the Bearded Entertainment, another great YouTube channel here in the space. He drove out all the way. He was like on a road trip, and he stopped by in Ohio with his drone, like this super nice drone, and he let me fly it and got a few shots of this like gorgeous lake and this like park right by where we filmed. And it's right outside the campus of where we filmed too, so I just thought it was perfect. I was really happy we could have that area play Windsor, Ohio too, which was just a lot of fun, which is the setting in Scream 2 as well. It was just a lot. We got a lot of drone footage that day, and we really only used it for that scene. But I'm still really happy with it. I think it looks really cool, and yeah, it was just a lot of editing in like Premiere and After Effects too. And we didn't have enough time to really super professionally color it because like something we learned. I'm basically still learning how to make a movie. Essentially, this is the first big project I've ever really been attached to for the behind the scenes elements. Coloring a movie takes a ridiculous amount of processing power is what we learned. So we only were able to do like a simple coloring. I think it looks good, but we could have done better. It probably would have taken us like an entire month though to do the whole movie, based off of what our editor said. So next time around when we're not completely crunched for time, because we had to get it out in December so that with all the Scream 6 hype, people could watch it throughout this whole thing. And like, if you can't wait any longer for Scream 6, check out this fan film. It'll be awesome. We had to get it out this month. So I think for the next project, we'll be able to make it look even more professional, but I'm still happy with the coloring we did. I think it looks pretty good for the week we basically spent on it. So I think it looks sick. But yeah, that's basically how we did it.
Yeah, because I did notice there were places in the film where I could tell that limitation of being able to get everything you want to, because there would be some places where the filters were there, and then somewhere I noticed it was kind of like that home footage kind of feel, like that, people just shooting from a camera. And it's interesting because that's why I wanted to do this as a in-depth dive into making this movie, because I find the process interesting, and most people don't realize like editors are heroes, like all of these people, because
Yes.
the film, and I say this all the time, and some people are like, oh yeah, and some people are like, whatever. But you never realize your eyes are accustomed to a certain thing, and films have this kind of feel to them. And getting that aesthetics right must be a bitch. So I can't imagine, like, especially if you're on a time limit, trying to get everything out. And people don't realize, like, probably half of the length that it takes movies to come out is just the editing process alone.
Yeah.
Because you could shoot everything, but then they got to go through and intercut things. Also, and this was another thing, and I know it's like minor, but being a YouTuber, it affects me. And I was so curious about it. How the hell did you get those song rights? Because here on YouTube, like just showing a clip of your scene with that American Psycho, that is probably my favorite of the movie, I would probably be demonetized for showing that. But yet, in your own like upload and in the movie itself, you have that song. Like, did you have to contact someone, or how did that go? Because you got a lot of like legitimate music in there, and I'm sitting there going, I gotta ask him about it, because I've been curious for years. Like, how does that process go? And was it a nightmare? Because it's a nightmare for me uploading, and I gotta go through all this stuff, too, when you're uploading like trailers and things like that. So
Yeah. The big thing I think with YouTube is and we knew this going into the movie, was we weren't going to be able to monetize like a fan film, like, because I don't own the Scream rights or anything like that. We legally can't make direct money off of it or anything like that. So we knew from the get-go we weren't going to monetize it. So with that, we were like, well, that kind of opens up some opportunities to make the movie itself better. So we were like, let's put some licensed music in there. Like, you can just do that with some songs. There's some stuff that you can't even upload to YouTube though. It'll just simply get blocked. But we checked, like, every single song that's in the movie, we checked it beforehand. Like, we actually like had to run it through a process. We uploaded it to a separate channel, and it was like unlisted, but we still had YouTube like run all the checks and all that, and it was still good. Like, it didn't get like just completely blocked. What was interesting though is we tried a song from Prince, Let's Go Crazy. We were thinking about that for the where Raining Blood is in the movie. Like, it's kind of like a joke, you know what I mean? It was like to be a little sillier. And that got like blocked, like taken down. We couldn't even, like, you can't use Prince music, I guess, on YouTube. We learned that the hard way. And we were like, oh, well, shit. So we ended up using Raining Blood instead, which I think is maybe a better choice there, because you have like the Poppy song before that, and then it goes into Raining Blood. It's just a big juxtaposition. I actually really ended up liking that choice better. Anyways, but yeah, there's some music you just can't upload to YouTube at all. Like, it'll just block the video. It'll be like, yeah, no, sorry, like, not gonna happen. But some stuff you can get away with, you just can't monetize it, essentially.
And so when making a fan film, and you're using these things, as far as the music goes, having it in the movie itself, like taking YouTube out as a component, is that all good, or is there certain things you had to look up, like copyright issues or stuff, contact any like studios or things like that, or the music studios and ask for permission, or was it okay because it's a fan film and you're not directly benefiting from any of the profits?
Yeah, because we're not directly benefiting it, like it's not that big of a deal, you know. Like if we were like if I was to make an original movie and I was to try to sell it to like a streamer or try to get in theaters theoretically or something, and I was gonna use like for example we use like Bad News by the Warbly Jets. I would have to get some kind of licensing agreement or whatever, and it would that would be a pain in the ass for sure. But I think for this though, we were like, yeah, fuck it, let's just use some licensed music. Let's just make this thing better if we can. We're not gonna make money off of it, but hopefully we can show to some people it's like, hey, we can make cool movies, and maybe someone will give us money in the future to do an original. So that was kind of the idea. We just wanted to make this look as good as we possibly could in the short time we had and with the very little budget we had too. So we're like, yeah, let's use some music. It'll make it feel more like an actual movie, and I think it does. I think for a lot of scenes, it does really elevate it. So it's nice. It's a nice touch.
Yeah, it's like because there were a lot of tunes and stuff that came in where I was kind of smiling, like, and I gotta say, okay, so a big thing, and some people, especially who do deep dive critiques, are very audible about this, but myself included. Uh, Placing songs into movies is very important, and I don't think people realize, like, take a movie like Captain Marvel for example, and that horrible "I'm Just a Girl" playing while she's beating up the Kree, and you're just like, oh god, this is, or I'm sorry, Skrulls, and this is just like, oh my god, this is such a poor thing. It's almost a joke because it's so badly placed. And I gotta say, you guys have a real ear for knowing where the music goes, because um, and that's another reason why I wanted to do this interview too, because it's a very good sign with the way you got things placed in the film musically and visually to kind of go hand in hand. And when you start introducing that element, did did that become a challenge within itself? Because every new thing you want to do, I know it kind of like, it's like, oh god, the scene was so simple, but now I'm playing around with music and aesthetics, and does the music go with the aesthetics and stuff like that. So uh how did you come about that process where you're like, okay, this song fits this scene and we want to do this amount of length, because you don't want to go too far into your other scene. I know that from recording, like I did a Sons of Anarchy video, and the timing of cutting off the theme song with going into my intro took me like 4 or 5 times. So I could only imagine what it's like to pace a scene to the music and then have the scene still work. What was that process like, trying to put everything together and make it coherent to where it didn't feel all wonky?
It was tough. There was a few things that we knew were going to be over, like the Limp Bizkit thing. We knew from the get go that we were gonna have to use that song. I knew that when I was writing it. But there was a few other things where we were like, I don't really know what I want to use here. So we tested out a few things. Bad News, like I was just talking about. We did not have that one picked. I was just in the script. I just wrote party music is playing, and Matt kind of went through a bunch of other like indie artists and stuff, like smaller stuff. That was kind of a theme with the whole movie, like amateur filmmaking, amateur smaller groups of people who are making art and all that, probably in their salad days, whatever. We wanted to kind of have that feeling throughout the whole movie too. So we ended up using a song from a band that is very underground, like the Warbly Jets. Most people probably don't even know them. And I think they do some really good alt rock music. And for us to use that song, it was like, oh, that's kind of perfect there. That's nice. To play over a party where there's just a bunch of film nerds all talking about movies. You know what I mean? So we're like, okay, I think that works. That's pretty cool. I think the toughest thing though was all the score, because me and Andrew Oliver, who edited the movie, we both kind of wrote tracks for different scenes, and that was really tough because that was in the crunch time. Like I wrote 2 tracks in the last week before we posted it. Like that whole last week was all just music and testing different things. We had a bunch of temp tracks. like of stuff we knew we weren't going to use, but we're like, I have to write something right now. I remember we edited from 3 o'clock to 4 in the morning. I came home and I wrote an entire track. I spent 2 hours doing that, and then I went back to Matt's place like after a 1 hour nap and started editing again. That was like one of the toughest days. That was just not even a week ago. That was insane. But yeah, I like that opening music. Like I wrote that in 2 hours, like just trying to get it all done and trying to finish it up just as fast as we could, because we were, like I said, we were just so pressed for time. So that was really tough, kind of picking the score and all that. But I think the music choices themselves, like the actual like songs from other bands, that was a little easier to place, I think. To have some fun needle drops throughout, like the head stomp, I think is another good example of that. But yeah.
Oh my God, that was amazing. So, as you know, and I think you share the same views as I do, practical effects to me are always the best way to go. And I do want to dive into that because, dude, that head stomp, like there were some typical Scream kills if you watch Scream franchise, a lot of stabbing, things like that. And I could kind of place myself into what you would do for that. But uh, now I know you guys aren't working with like Damien Leon kind of budget, so you can't get like real into the you know, making models and having that prosthetics guy who will, do all that. But it was pretty convincing in the whole eyeball thing. And it's like, so how long did that take you? And how hard was that and what kind of camera trickery did you do? Because it pops out. And I was like, that is pretty good effect for, for what you guys were going for. Like the trajectory and the angle was all pretty spot on. Like, was that a one take thing? Did you have to do several takes? Like, how the hell did you pull that off? Because it was it was probably the most impressive kill in the whole entire thing. Like, by God, like, what was the whole process? And did you originally have a shot where you were going to show the aftermath, or did you always kind of knew you didn't have the resources for that, so you just spliced the eyeball thing? Because it's still effective. I was like, oh God.
I think one of my favorite things that slasher movies do is when they don't like. I hate when a slasher movie gives you like the best kill right off the bat, and then the rest of them kind of just decline. So we saved like the best one for that one. Like that was like that in my mind is the best kill in the movie. And I think the thing with that was, I was definitely inspired by Halloween 2018 with the head stomp. Like Dr. Sartain gets his head stomped, and it's awesome. It's nasty. But something I've always wanted to see was the eyeballs like pop out and shoot out of a skull during a head stomp. So I was like, that's kind of a way we can reinvent it a little more and make it a little grosser. So what we ended up doing for that, what we found was the best way to do it, was we took a styrofoam head, we painted it the same skin color as Alex, who plays Vicky in the movie, and we just put a blonde wig over it. We filled it, like we hollowed it out. We filled it with blood, and I hollowed out the eyes, and I made little fake eyeballs out of ping pong balls and straws. So it was ping pong balls, straws, mortician's wax, and I put that all on the stem of it to make it look like the optic nerve, covered it in fake blood, and like popped them into the fake head. And then when we stomped on it, it worked perfectly. We only had one, and we're like, if we fuck this up, like, we're screwed. There was maybe an hour of preparation just for that one shot. And I have at some point I'm gonna post the video of us doing it, of actually doing the stomp. We had my dad, who did a lot of the special effects on this movie. He was the one to actually do the stomp in the Ghostface boots. So it was it was a lot of fun doing that, and we were all just so nervous. We were like, we have to get this right. We were just like, we have to get this right now, or we're screwed. So we we got it right on the first take though, and I think it looks great. It's one of it's the happiest I am with an effect in the entire movie. I think there was a lot of cool kills, but that's the one that takes the cake easily in my mind.
And I gotta say too, I was wondering, there's a lot of stories you hear, like with directors who get the ability to blow up a building, but they only got one take to do it. And you hear so many stories where they're like, man, it was on the wire, something went wrong. Like, so you were in one of those situations where you could only do that one time. And I can't imagine like the nerve-wracking feeling that must be to be like, oh God, if we don't get this perfect. Now, when you were doing the editing process, did you have to like do some voodoo to make it all work, or did it was that just the shot right from the go and you kept it in and you're like, I'm not gonna mess around with this because this is perfect the way it is?
There was a few scenes we like moved some stuff around. I think the biggest one was we ended up cutting out like there was two big things we cut out of the movie. There was this whole side plot with Christian and Maya that just didn't really work with the movie, so we kind of cut it out, and we had to we had to completely rework the scene where her and like Drew and Christian are sitting in that car together. They're having that whole conversation about his sister. We kind of that whole scene is reworked. Like we basically made it work so that it's just about Christian kind of figuring out like maybe Jamie's behind all of this. There was like a whole other thing they were going to talk about in the conversation. We just cut it out. So like we reworked that whole scene to make it work in the editing room. But that scene, that was exactly how it was in the script. Like it's basically just the Tatum kill from the original Scream, but instead of getting trapped in the garage door, the world's strongest garage door, we had Ghostface just stomp on her head. I was like, let's just do a simple, effective kill, like something really messed up. And he even hits her head in the door to like soften up her skull first, which I think was pretty fucked up. And I don't know, it's a really fun kill. I'm really proud of it. It's one of the scenes in the movie I'm the most proud of, and I think it's sick. It's one of those like big shocking moments I think people won't see coming in a movie that has a shoestring budget like that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things I gotta say. So as far as characters go, the ones I was vibing with was, of course, you as Jamie, because I was very enthralled. I gotta say kudos. You did a fantastic job with that because for me, your antagonist not only has to be interesting, but charismatic. Like they carry the movie, so there's a lot of pressure in doing that. But also the the other intriguing aspect, which I gotta say, I'm gonna be truthful, cards on the table. I wanted to know more about the red ghost face. Whoever did that, like I saw who it was at the ending. I don't know if you used different people or whatever, but that was the most interesting. If I'm more frustrated with anything was like, now was that intentional that he was so vague, or like what was the deal? Because I really love that red ghost face. I like the devil mask, the design of it, and I kind of like you're trying to one up this killer who's out there who's just really just a psychopath, and then you trying to make a statement. And I like the little back and forth, but I was like really like intrigued, like what is his deal? And then spoilers, but you see him go off with the mask and the camera to another location, so you figure he's just doing this just cuz. But like, dude, what is his deal? like,
Yeah.
throughout the like, is he supposed to be ambiguous? Because I found that really interesting. I like the aspect of exploring Jamie because it's got a lot of American Psycho, and I like the actual knowing the killer as opposed to every other Scream shows the victims and they're fighting their way. But this one's about the killers. But that dude, like, what was his deal? That was so fascinating. And did you want to explore more about him, or was it your intent to leave him ambiguous?
So the big thing with him is, and I've seen a lot of people not get this, but it's all there in the movie. He is the Dead by Daylight killer, like the character that they created for that game. That's all revealed in that ending shot when you see all the wallets. Like one of the names on the specifically the California one is Danny Johnson, which is the name of the killer from that game. The Devil Ghostface costume is one of the costumes you can wear in Dead by Daylight 2, which is what it's inspired by. We changed up the mask for the movie a bit because the mask we got it looked really cheap. So we ended up giving it to our prop master, Kay Vander, who killed it. I think he made the mask look even cooler than how it does in Dead by Daylight, in my opinion. It's got like the ruffles around the horns and all that now, and he like kind of roughed it up a bit. I think it looks sick. Like I was actually really proud of how the mask came out. But the big thing about it was he was the big twist at the end was he's supposed to be Danny Johnson from Dead by Daylight, and I thought that was pretty cool, pretty unexpected. It's kind of a joining of the Scream universe with the Dead by Daylight universe as well, putting those kind of into the same place. You can take it as canon as if you want, or you don't have to either. And I think that's also another fun thing about it, because I don't think Danny Johnson has an interest in going after like Sidney Prescott or whatever. He kind of just wants to see the world burn, which is why he doesn't have his ending speech. Everything you need to know about the character is spelled out to you in the scene where he kills Barbara. And he kind of tells you about how he hates the stab movies, he rejects them. And I kind of thought that was going to stand out a little more, because like typically when you get a Ghostface call, they're like, nutting their pants over the stab movies. They're like, I love these movies so much, you don't appreciate them as much as me or something. But this Ghostface who calls is so the opposite, parallel opposite of Jamie, so much to the degree to where he doesn't care about the stab movies. Nobody knows about the real life killings. He would probably hate Jamie if he met him in real life, which you find out in the end, he's been working with him the whole time to kind of just fuck around. He just thinks it's funny. And I think that's great. So if people are looking for that explanation, it's all in the Barbara scene. Like everything you need to know about the characters right there in the phone call. And I think if you pick apart that scene a little more, everything's spelled out. It's just in a very unconventional order. I think that also kind of adds, like I said, rewatchability to it.
Yeah, because like I said, I would have to go back and really dissect stuff, because I was like, wow, like the mask, the design, and even I did draw the parallels, like the difference in the kills. Like Jamie's very much about the show and the grandiose spectacle, where he's low key and probably more brutal in the way that he does things, but he's not really looking for like the spotlight, where Jamie Watts is like, we got to film this shot sucks. I was laughing with the lens cap scene because I know so many people who've done that. It's like, and you're like, oh man, like really, you left the lens cap on? Like that was hilarious. So yeah, I found that very intriguing. Like it's kind of like not just a movie about the killer's perspective, but also a duel between arguably an authentic killer who's genuinely evil and, like you said, just wants to see the world burn. He rejects all of these things because he has his own kind of modus operandum. And then you've got the person who just wants to be noticed, like the stew of the of the guys who are like, we need a sequel, we need the biography, that kind of character. And it was really interesting taking that position to explore the minds of them. Now, when you were doing this, you did a great job with the circle of friends and things like that. But also too, like examining him after he kills them and like critiquing himself. So like, how did you get into that mindset? Like, was this like, okay, if I was, or is this like when you look at a video and you go, God, this video is going to suck, and then you put it up and you're like, so like, what was the process of creating this character and like being like giving him his quirks and his traits? Because I know this isn't your character, this isn't you. I know you, like, if you guys don't know, he's the nicest reviewer on YouTube. Like,
well, thank you.
Like hands down, like I will be a douchebag in my reviews, and Jake says like, I just didn't like this. He's a very nice guy. Huh? So my question is, what did you do to, besides just like imbuing it with all the traits that you hate, did you also put a little bit of you? Because I hear actors say that, like, yeah, when I played this role, there's a part of me and I had to go places. Was that the kind of feeling for you? Like there are qualities within yourself you had to put into this character to get that authenticity? Or was it just like, you made up on the fly and like, okay, the opposite of what I would do, and bam, that's
It was a lot of what's the opposite of what I would do a lot of the time. I will say that was a big, like maybe my biggest influence with it, because I was just like, if I was to approach this situation and I was trying to be nice about someone's movie opinion that I might disagree with, this is what I would do. I'm going to do the opposite of that. But I think another big element to it as well was whenever I would get a hate comment, I don't really get offended by hate comments. Like I see that if you go out of your way to leave this long hate comment on somebody, that is the most loving thing you can do to a YouTuber or to support them. That means you are so obsessed with these people and you want to have that success as well. That's how I see it whenever I see a long, ridiculous hate comment. And I think whenever I see those two, I have another thought. It's what is that person's living situation like? Like what is going on with this person that they had to do that for someone who's not at all trying to be aggressive towards anybody who has a counter opinion than me. Like I'm always like a big mantra on my channel is if you whatever your movie opinion is, whatever your theories are, pitch them, throw them out there. I might disagree with them and I will argue on them, but I'm never gonna be a dick about it. I will purposefully not be a dick about it. I'm always gonna be open-minded to this stuff. And I just think like what kind of person would hate on that? What kind of person would hate on that mentality so much to the point where they would have to leave this long paragraph after paragraph of hate comments? And that was a lot of the inspiration that went into the Jamie as well, was just like maybe this is that person, like this guy who just sits at his computer all day trying to make something and nothing is working out. Like he's literally watching one of his past movies in one scene of the thing, and it's just total utter nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. It's just kind of dumb, you know. And you're like, you almost kind of feel bad for him in a sense in that scene, but he's still just such a maniac. He does these awful, horrible things. It's what I imagine the other side of that conversation looks like to the 11th degree times like a million out the window being ridiculous. That was another big inspiration with it as well, I think. But I don't know. It's just a big theme of the movie is hate inspires hate, but I think the opposite is also true, that where love can inspire more love too. So if you don't be like Jamie, if you try to be the opposite like that, then you'll bring more kindness into the world, or not. You know, don't be like Jamie, I think is the big message of the movie.
and the thing that I like is a lot of even like the big film directors, right, will try to go for that kind of a thing, but they'll make the views so one-sided. And the thing I also appreciated about the film was that with dealing with your character, he still had friends, and it was interesting to see that we paint people, especially people on the internet we never meet, like me and you get dumb comments. I can't tell you how many people that bashed me when I said Castlevania 3 going woke. It was people, it was for clicks, okay? There you know my secret. I just wanted to get a cool tagline to get you going, oh, what does this a-hole have to say? Because it was beloved. And I laid out my points or whatever, but I got these comments from these people like, oh, what are you saying? There can't be lesbian vampires. I'm like, no, if you listen to my critique, I was saying it felt forced, not that it was not probable. They lived for thousands of years. That makes sense. Anyways, the point being is that to me, reading a comment like that, I go, oh, look at this asshole. Jesus, now I got to sit here and defend myself and write this big, long thing and try to be sensible. And I know this person's not going to see it because they got it in their mind. I'm not going to change them, but I'm still going to respond back, right? But we don't see the other end, that these people aren't, just drones on the internet. They do have lives outside of here. So it was interesting seeing Jamie actually had this circle of people who were concerned about his mental state. And he's not just like this guy who's just like an internet troll, as the media would have you believe. He's a person. His views might be really misguided, but he does have these people who obviously find something they like about him, and he's got a collective of friends. And I think that's really cool that you guys explore that, because there are people legitimately concerned. And my next character, and the second character I really liked, forgot, she has green hair. Who is it?
Drew.
Drew,
Yeah.
yes, Drew. By the way, I don't know who that actress was, but if you watch this, kudos, great job. Liked her sarcasm. So when writing Drew, because although I don't know, and I'm just being perfectly honest, if I buy the whole love interest thing, her character herself, I like that snarky kind of thing she's got going, like the scene where the dude sits down and she just reams into him because she hasn't gotten a text back from her friend. She doesn't want to be at this party, so this poor guy sits down and just gets the third degree. Once again, one scene in particular I really loved. So when doing that and when adding that other thing, because the interesting part is we're told they're love interests, right? There's a couple of scenes you show, but it really doesn't dive into it, which is why I say chemistry when I do a critique. But was that purposeful because you're just kind of showing like his view and not really focusing on that, or were there things cut? Like, what's the deal with that whole like chemistry? Because at the end it does lead to something that I feel like you're going for, right? She's betrayed this whole time, she's seeing it as you're just having a mental breakdown. She has no clue how right she is, by the way. Hey
Yeah.
Kim, what's up? uh I'm not gonna say happy holidays. Thank you. Merry Christmas. That's we're gonna make Christmas great again. Oh God. Anyways, so like, did you want to do more of a dynamic, or did you keep it like purposeful? Like, yeah, he sees this maybe as a relationship, but he's so into this project he's doing that that's not really important. It's just a byproduct of him going crazy. Like, was there more fleshed out kind of stuff with that romance, or was it always meant to be just kind of, as the back burner because obviously that's your final girl? Like, how did that come about? And kudos to the actress. I really liked her portrayal. I liked the sarcasm thing. I think it's more realistic.
Yeah. I think the thing about Drew that it was a big thing I've wanted to see in a final girl, that I feel like we haven't in too long. Lauren Lavera, I think, kills it in Terrifier 2, and has like she starts in a place where maybe she's not like the most perfect, like uh she's not like the most perfect character, and as the movie progresses it's like you see her get stronger as a character, in like just comparing it to Terrifier 2. I wanted to do something similar to that with Drew. I wanted to have her be flawed at the beginning and to overcome that as the movie progresses. Like at the very beginning she's like kind of enamored to Jamie has been in her life. He's like her next door neighbor essentially, and he was there for her when her dad died, which is something that gets revealed later in the movie. And we even get this conversation between them, which is I think a really poignant scene where they both make like really morbid jokes about their parents. He says something like, "Who are you gonna watch movies with instead, if not me?" And then she's like, "Oh, I'll just dig up my dad's corpse or whatever." And then he goes, "Oh, and I'll just watch parents. I'll just watch movies with my negligent parents and all that." So they both come from kind of not great homes. You know what I mean? It's actually kind of a dark story, which was really upsetting, and I think it's really real too. But the big thing about it is I think that she just needed somebody to rely on, because maybe her mother wasn't as much in the picture, very similar to Jamie, which is why I think they became such close friends, which is once again something you don't really see on screen, but you do get to see them talking about it. You get to see that like Drew is really enamored to this guy. That was a big criticism I've seen. I remember there was a specific review where it was like, I just don't buy that Drew would be into this guy. And I'm like, it's all there, and she even said it's in two scenes where she talks about her dad being dead, and then she also talks about it again with Christian, and she just straight up spells it out. She's like, Jamie was there for me when my dad died, like he's my best friend. Like I just can't see him becoming a killer. He's weird, he's difficult, but like I still like have feelings for the guy. I still love him. And Christian is just like, oh my God. Like he's also very frustrated with the situation. He's like, Drew, it is so obviously him. And it is. It's very obviously him. But I think if we didn't have that, the whole movie wouldn't work. And I think that's kind of part of the charm of it, part of the fun. I don't really like writing perfect characters. Like I've seen a lot of perfect characters in movies, TV shows, whatever. And I just think that's boring. Like I like seeing characters start from like a really low a really low level and kind of get up on this precipice throughout the course of a movie. That's just so much more interesting to me. And I think nowadays we just like to throw them all the way up here. Like like every character is John Wick or something. And I'm just like, that's just not as fun to me. I love those movies. I love action movies. I love Commando and like John Wick and all those crazy movies like that. But not everything needs to do that, I would argue. Pathetic and sad characters are just so much more interesting to watch, in my opinion. And that's I put a little bit of that into all of the characters in this movie, where they all kind of have a fatal flaw one way or the other.
Yeah, like there is like, especially in the circle of friends and when you're watching the film party, and I was just thinking like, Man, like going through high school, I did have a period where I was not so popular, so it's a good relation thing to see like their version of a party, and you got the film nerds together. We're all gonna watch a horror movie marathon, and it's a really funny, kind of fun thing, and it takes you back to like, yeah, like that, dude, that was my high school experience. But then like, and things change, and time changes in your life, and you kind of lose that, and we go and become the people we're gonna become or whatever. But yeah, I did find that with a lot of the characters, it was cool. Another scene I really liked was the car ride when Jamie was confronted with the fact that maybe he's just not a good filmmaker by his friend, and he's like, no, no, man, I'm just trying to say, because he sees that, like, that glimmer of a psychotic kind of look in his eye when he's talking about his movie. And like, there are a lot of character beats like that. And my other question was, especially with the conversations, did you want to go for a more scripted feel, or did you want to just do a more organic thing? Like, how much of the dialogue is planned? Because I know some of the best dialogue is like just ad libbed or whatever. Is there things that you guys threw in there where it wasn't in the original script, but it just kind of worked out and you just ran with it? Like, because I gotta say, I've seen professional films and film student films and dialogue, and some of it could be really atrocious,
Yeah,
even in
yeah.
like professional films, like just god awful. So what did you do differently when you were writing dialogue, and like how much of it just was like a natural thing where you guys kind of ad-libbed a scene and just left it in, and then how much of it was planned? Like, how did you construct your dialogue in this movie?
So there's two big well, so a lot of it is scripted though, to answer that question first. So like we had a script for the whole thing. Like we had a very detailed, like, okay, this is how this is going to go, this is how this is going to flow and all that. We had all that planned out, but there was a few things that weren't in the script that were just so funny we had to leave in. What One of the big things was the scene, the American Psycho scene, when I'm talking to Max, who is played by Sean Norris. He's like, is this are these posters of my movie? And I'm just like, yes, it is. And then he looks at me and he's kind of just like, oh, is that a screen accurate Ghostface robe? And I'm like, yes, it is, Max. And then he just goes, oh wow, he forgot his line. That's actually yeah, he was supposed to say something else there, but he kind of just goes, huh, wow, like that, because like he didn't know, he forgot what his line was, so he just rolled with it. We thought that was way funnier than what we had written, so we're like, yeah, fuck that. That's staying in. That's hilarious. The other big one was during the second found footage bit in Jamie's room when he's talking about Devil Ghostface. He's like, this guy's stealing my thunder. What the hell? He kind of comes to the realization that maybe it's somebody in the friend group who's killing everybody and like kind of trying to take his place and coming after him specifically. And he's like, oh my god, someone in the group knows I'm Ghostface. And my brother, who plays Matt, said, I wouldn't say that so loud. Like, that was actually not in the script at all. He just improvised that, and we just kept rolling. We were just like, yeah, let's just keep going. That's all one. Both of those shots are all just one long take, and that was a lot of prepping beforehand, a lot of lines to memorize. But it came out great. I was still really happy with it. But yeah, that was kind of an outtake there, but we ended up just leaving it in too, because it was just like, yeah, that's hilarious. That's great.
Yeah, because and that's my other thing as far as dialogue goes, bro. Like, we see actors and actresses who, and this is a credit to them, because I feel like a lot of Hollywood actresses are kind of snobs or whatever. But when you're doing it, man, like, how hard is it to memorize lines? Because like, there's a lot of dialogue, and there's a lot of talking, and you've got to do a certain inflection with your voice. You were like on 11 the whole time. How hard was that to maintain? Because I'll admit, and no cap, as the kids say, but seriously, like, you were your Killjoy Jake personality, but times like 11 in this movie, and like that kind of bombastic thing. How hard was that, and how tough was it to apply that to the lines? Because I know reading it, and then you memorize it, and then having to make it your own. How tough is that whole process uh, with so much dialogue that you guys have to remember and do per scene?
It was really tough, but I think especially with those scenes in particular. I mean, we must have done those 20 times to get everything right because one mistake we had to start over. Like those are both those scenes I was talking about in Jamie's room where he's like playing with his knife, looking at his computer. Those are all one takes. We did those all in one just long continuous take. And we had to do those a couple of times. It was tough. I just like studied the lines beforehand. Like I just tried to memorize every little beat and pattern for it. Me and Noah would just we were sitting in here actually in my bedroom where I make all my videos, and we would just go back and forth with the lines. And Noah thankfully was on script while he was filming with the camera, so we had this weird rig where we kind of like duct taped his phone up to the camera so he could read his lines, and it was basically just me who had to memorize everything, and it was really tough, but we got through it. The big thing I wanted to do with those scenes is just to show how crazy Jamie was in this candid sort of way. So those scenes were crucial to making his character work, and we just went over it like 1,000 times. Like 1,000 times, we had people who would watch it and be like Matt, for instance, would come over and just be like, "Yeah, I don't like the way you deliver that. Like, do that a little differently." So those two scenes in particular, I probably put the most work into acting wise. Those were definitely the hardest ones. Like the monologue at the end, I had like honestly that was nothing compared to those two scenes. Those were big hurdles to cross over.
And dude, I gotta ask, there must be some funny outtakes. So was there times where you get someone who'd be like, "Fuck that," and then you had to start again because it's like, "Oh goddamn, I forgot this one little thing." And I've always been curious too with the process of doing dialogue. Like, say someone says the line and the gist is the same, but they don't say it word for word on the paper. Were you a stickler, like, no, we got to do it? Or were you like, fuck it, it's been 20 takes, let's just go with this? Or was there a flexibility where some stuff wasn't pitch for pitch, word for word what you wrote, but you kind of just rolled with it? Or were you like, no, we are going to do the as it's written, bam, that's what we're doing? How did you approach those kind of things? Because there's other people involved too, so
Yeah. I think that was a tough thing here because the majority of the people who are in this movie are not trained actors. A lot of them are just my friends. You know what I mean? So when there were some scenes that would just run really late. And we were up till 4:30 in the morning filming Barbara's death. When we actually concluded that, it was 4:30 and I had to drive people home and stuff. It was just a nightmare. So that scene's a little rough. I wish we would have gotten some more takes of some of that stuff, but I'm still pretty happy with it. I wasn't that much of a stickler on certain things, but I think we got the best we could in the short time we had. It's one of those things again where if I was working with people who were these people have acted before and all that, yeah, okay, I would have been a little more try this again. I would still do that, but if it just wasn't happening, I was just like, all right, that's the best we're gonna get, and just move along. But I think for the next one, I definitely want to do I definitely want to have a smaller cast, I think, and then just have it be more just trained people who know what they're doing and all that, who can come to set and just jump into a character. But I'm still happy. Like I said, I'm still happy with our results here. I mean, considering that half the cast is just my buddies, I can't believe it came out so well, and everyone gives a really good performance considering all of that too. So I'm happy with it. I wasn't that big of a stickler. There was. The only line we had to do 30, 40 times, just over and over again for one particular scene was actually me. I couldn't get through one of the lines in the American Psycho scene. I turned the corner at one point and I just say something like, "Oh, the whole album has a big punchy sound," or whatever the line is. I couldn't get through that line. We must have done it 30, 40 times. I don't know what it was. It was that scene in The Disaster Artist where everyone else knows the line and is saying it to me, and I just couldn't get through it. It got that bad. I'm like, I don't know why I can't do this. I don't know what it is. So that was a little frustrating, but besides that, I mean, we got through it pretty quick.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why I was so excited about doing this, because it's very interesting for me to deep dive, because these are questions I've always had. Because we could sit here and pick things apart. It's easy being on this side of the couch, or in your chair going, God, man, they suck so bad. Why didn't they do it this way? But when you're actually doing it, and you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I understand why people have such a hard time doing this. Like, it must be a humbling experience. Like, how does this whole experience of doing this film change your outlook going forward as far as like reviewing movies and things like that? Does that kind of soften your view now on Halloween Ends, or are you just like, nah, they still suck?
It, dude, it softens my view on everything. Like you thought I was nice before. Moving into 2023, I'm gonna just be the biggest sweetheart when it comes to just every movie now, and I think people are gonna hate that, but I just have a big respect. If you have made a movie in your life, I just have so much respect for anybody who has done that. It is like it's so challenging. It's so hard to get everything right. And I will critique stuff. I even in our movie, there's stuff that doesn't land that I wish did. If we had more time, maybe it would have. I wish the scene with Christian and Maya was a little more emotional. I think I originally written that to be almost like a tearjerker a bit. I kind of wanted it to blindside people a little bit with how schlocky and fun the movie is. That just randomly put this really dark scene in there. I think we could have written it a little better to make it a little darker, a little like more poignant and emotional. But I just don't think it's there. It's just a little underdeveloped. But I'll point that out for movies, but I think moving forward, I'm never going to call something trash. If you made a movie that is not trash, like that is just impressive. If you were able to put a film together at this point, I might not like Halloween Ends and I will probably never watch it ever again for the rest of my life, but I respect that team of people came together and made a movie. You know what I mean? It's one of those things.
That's that's my feelings on Avatar. But I did watch this whole thing with my wonderful lady, and she was going through the musical score and how they did it and stuff. And like I said, when you look, and then you're looking with, now you're playing with millions and millions of dollars, and seeing that when you're a film director and now you have that freedom, the even the ability to care that much, to have something that unique, it speaks to the fact that there is this creativity. I will never say Jeepers Creepers Reborn has an ounce of creativity, because I rated that my worst movie of 2022. That was like my number one. And like, even if I do a comparison of that movie to yours, yours is like an Academy Award winner, man. You're up for the Oscars compared to that shit. And it also changed my view a lot on like, okay, here's this person, because I look at it the end inverse. Like, here's this person who crowdfunded their movie, put so much passion into it, and then you got another movie where a studio will back them, and they got these millions of dollars. And from what I could tell, there's no interference from the studio, right? Just go nuts, but this is your budget, and you can't deliver a good film. That speaks a lot to, like, is it interfered with? Did you just not care? Because, like, looking at that, I would say half of the shit you did was better than a good third of what that movie does. And they have the makeup budget, they have the professionals. So it really lends this lens on, are we losing our passion? Or, does it get harder when you got that overhead? Is there more mandates? Are they putting screws to what you're doing? Tampering with the creative process. There's just so many more factors. But yeah, I think that it really does give me a different perspective, because it's like my critic brain wants to go like, oh man, he messed up so bad on this and stuff like that. But then I'm looking and I'm going, but yet still, that kill, man, like, and he only had that, like, how the hell did he do it? Like, it put me in a weird position where I was like, oh my God, this is crazy how you did that. And now, you say you had a time crunch. That makes it even more impressive, because like, just what you're able to do and what you pull off with the time and the budget, like, it's really commendable, because that's not easy to do. You don't get an extension. You don't get to say, like, yeah, guys, I'm going to need like 20 million more marketing and about 6 more weeks before this is gonna be done. It's like, no, this has got to be out now. We're out of money. We're out of time. We got to do this. So, um, yeah, I can understand you having that perspective because it's like, man, being in it, this is not easy. And that to me kind of mirrors what you did with the character of Jamie. Here's this guy killing all these people, filming it, and like for the most part, everything he does going wrong, and and it kind of mirrors like did you find it kind of mirroring that personal experience where you're like, there's so much I want to do, but I don't have time. How are people going to deal with this? I guess my other thing is like, how has the feedback been on this movie? How has the criticism been? And do you take it in stride, or are you gonna please tell me you're not gonna get the Ryan Johnson when you're like, no, my movie is great. Fuck you guys. Like,
it's one of those, so it's one of those things where I think we knew going into this that people wouldn't, I knew some people wouldn't like it. Like I was not expecting people to like I was not expecting across the board positive reviews, especially because of how different this is from your typical Scream format. Like we specifically wanted to make it something different. Dude, you know, I'll be honest, I mean no offense to any of the other Scream fan films out there, but just about everyone I've seen is trying to just mimic something from the movies, and I haven't gotten any. I've never been like, oh, this was something different, this is something cool. I just haven't gotten that from another one of the Scream fan films I've seen, and I just really wanted to do something where it was like, this is gonna stand out, good or bad. And I kind of was just like, let's let's take a risk. We don't have a lot of time. Let's do something that's going to stand out. That's going to be something that's going to be actually memorable, and people are going to talk about this for years to come, I think. But if we were to have just done, you know, another straight up Scream film where it was like, oh, maybe Jamie's the killer, you know, it's from Drew's perspective the whole time, I just don't think that would have been as much of an interesting movie. It would have just been your same old typical setup, and I just don't think that would have been as fun as what we ended up doing. So I think the big thing with this was we knew that some people would have an issue with that. I think it's cool to finally see what it's like to be a Ghostface killer in one of these movies. And there has been some negative reviews, but for the most part, it's been surprisingly positive. Like the 90% of the comments on the video are really positive. The Letterboxd reviews are not so positive, but that's okay. It's just like 4 or 5 here and there, but a lot of them missed the point. Like a lot of them missed the point. There was one really insightful one that I really appreciated that said like, you guys just needed a bigger budget to do everything you wanted to do here, and that was something we knew from the get-go. We just couldn't get around that. But I think for the next one, we'll be able to execute everything we want to do with a bigger budget and have, you know, better, like more actors and all that, essentially, instead of just my buddies. But I just wanted to do this to do something fun for Scream fans before we get Scream 6 here in March. So I think for the next thing, it'll be a lot more focused, a lot less of here's just a weird pipe dream I have for the Scream franchise. Instead, it's going to be a focused feature film where I have a whole idea start to finish of what it's going to be, opposed to this is an inkling of an idea we have for what a Scream offshoot could look like, essentially. So I think that's the big thing that I feel like people are missing about it. I think a lot of people are judging it like it's an actual new Scream movie or something, but Hollywood would never release something like this, and I think that's another big charm to it.
I would also make a testament for one, how the fan base is, and two, for what you did is, I think there's no higher form of flattery than a comparison, because that means that it's affecting people in a way where they're making that one-for-one comparison, and in their mind going, oh man, but you know, in the franchise, to me, that means that you are leaving an impact on people,
and that's mission accomplished. You know what I mean? Like that's exactly what I just want. The big thing I wanted with this movie was to make people think about Ghostface killers. I wanted to give them a whole new image of what Billy Loomis was doing behind the scenes. I see people who make these edits of like, oh, Billy and Sydney, God, what a cute couple and all that. But it's like, if you think about it, that's pretty fucked up. You know what I mean? And like, I wanted to show you, it's like, okay, but here's what Billy was probably like. And I'd imagine he was like maybe a kind of weird version of Jamie, you know what I mean? In my head, that's kind of how I see it. He's also like, he's inspired by a lot of things like what we've been talking about, but I also feel like there's Billy and Stu influences on him as well, which I would argue are probably the two most iconic Ghostface killers.
Yeah, and for me, I liked the thing because as long as it's executed well, which I gotta say that part is executed very well. Is I like getting the reveal first because if it's like, okay, so that's not the mystery. The mystery is, will the people catch on to what's going on and how is that going to unfold? So you took the mystery formula and flipped it to where it's like the mystery is not, okay, we're trying to figure out the killer because we know who the killer is. It's how is he going to be brought down and what wacky events are going to ensue to get you to the point of the movie where the reveal happens. Which I think is a very interesting concept, and I'm quite frankly surprised no other like person who's ever helmed this has been like, hey, let's just reveal the killer first and then go through their story. And you could still do that mystery. Like, then people are put in a position where, like, oh, okay, so how is he going to get caught? What is going to be, like, what mistakes is he making? And it makes a little funny Easter egg where you can track the killer and be like, oh, okay, so he knows he messed up here. And how is that going to come back later to be the thing that brings him down? Because at the end, we all know what the end is, right? We're going to reveal the Ghostface killer. There's going to be a Scooby-Doo moment. Everyone's going to gang up and, the happily ever after. So I appreciated that aspect. And as far as critics go, like being the one criticized, all right? Like you're on the hot seat now, right?
Yeah.
Like, did you ever get a moment? Because I did hear that like they didn't understand certain parts, and you did clarify a lot of things. Like I want to go back and rewatch it to get those Easter eggs because you won me over with the American Psycho thing. Like I don't know if you knew that was my favorite movie, but that's like one of my favorite underrated. And in American Psycho, they do a similar thing. You're not following the hero. You're following the villain's descent into villainy and trying to piece together, okay, how much was real and how much was just in his mind as he's going crazy. So
Yeah.
I enjoy you taking that aspect to Ghostface because we never got that. Like you can put together, like say for instance the Holy Grail, right? Scream 1. You can put together all of the steps and that unhinged rant at the end, and you can kind of start to piece together where he was bullshitting, where everything was going, but we never saw what he was doing, why he's killing these people, even if it doesn't make sense to us, right? We never saw that. You just had to infer it. So hey, Mr. Pop Culture PB is here. Good to see you in the comments. Yeah, it was very interesting to like you making references to Rian Johnson and like your warped views on cinema, and then the scary part where I was like, well, he's not so wrong with some of his critiques. But no, it's like, so when you're looking at the comments, is it tough being on that end of being criticized? And like, as well as I do, when we make statements on YouTube or when we get a critique, we're never going to be able to go back and take back what we said. We can only explain why we feel the way we feel. Like when you got those comments where you're like, oh man, fuck them, or were you like doubting yourself, or was it just like, you know what? I put this out. This is how I saw things. For better or worse, this is kind of where I knew it was going to land, and take it or leave it.
No, like I said, everybody went into this film with the mindset of, yeah, there's definitely a select group of people who are not going to like this. We knew that going into it. So I'm not even surprised by the comments. Like the comments I'm reading, like those few negative ones I'm talking about. Yeah, like, I mean, they just totally missed the point. I think they went into it thinking this is going to be a big budget, this is a big budget, typical Scream fan film where it's going to be your same old, like the big I saw one that was like, how did this come out this way? Like, this is just so not the Scream formula. It's not, there's so much going on. There's so much weird, wacky things. It just doesn't feel like a Scream movie at all. And I'm like, that's entirely the point. Like I've seen so many movies, so many fan films in general too, not even just Scream, just fan films in general, that their only goal is to replicate the movies. And I'm like, how are you going to do that on a lower budget without professional actors? How are you going to do that? Your better chance there to do something that's going to stick out, that people are going to remember, that fans are going to like, is something that isn't anything like in the movies, I would argue. Like I'm not going to try to challenge Wes Craven, you know what I mean? I'm not that good of a director.
Challenge.
Yeah, fuck that. Like no way am I going to try to one up Wes Craven at his own game. Like no way. There's no way in hell that would ever be possible. So I tried to do it my own way. And I think that was the most successful route to making a fan film that's going to stick out, to be something that people can talk about and be like, oh, this is an interesting new angle. You got to throw it for a loop, especially when you're working with a low budget. You have to have a good high concept for people to be interested in, or why am I watching this when I could just be watching Scream 1 again, I guess is my point.
And I respect that because, and I think you and me have talked ad nauseum about Scream 5 as far as that goes, because you got people who made Ready or Not, which was arguably my favorite horror movie of that year, and their styles are clearly very different. And you can see, like, these are big boy moves now. You're going into a Wes Craven, like, franchise, and they took the exact same approach, right? They're like, well, fuck it, we're not going to top Wes Craven, and we don't even want to, because who wants that monumentous task, right? We just want to put out a respectful sequel to kind of carry the legacy on, because if no one else is making Scream movies, the franchise dies with Wes Craven, right? He's gone, rest his soul, and that would be the end, because that was his baby. So then you need that person to kind of take the torch and keep it in the minds of the public now, because like 10, 20 years from now, they're not going to go back to the first movie unless we have these new movies, right? To be like, oh, what does everybody mean Scream 1 and 2? There was right? So then they go back and they watch the originals, and Wes lives through that kind of a thing. Yeah. And it's the same difference here, right? If you're just plagiarizing something, which is a form of flattery, a lot of people say, but if you're just plagiarizing the first movie, then like you said, it dies off very quickly, because people are like, I could just watch the first film instead of this and get that Wes Craven quality. But if you're going against the grain, then you're giving them something that sticks in their mind, where they're like, let me go back and watch these other films to do that compare and contrast. You're carrying that torch on, but still putting your own stamp on it and making it your own idea, while paying respect.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it's not supposed to be disrespectful. I've also seen another one that was saying, like, man, they just took the formula and threw it out the window. It's so disrespectful to Wes Craven. It was never meant to come off that way at all. It was supposed to come off as food for thought for these movies. I wanted to pose a question with this film, and I think that was the one thing I can 100% say we did successfully. You can look at this movie and say, well, it's sloppy, it's amateur for this and that. Some of the cuts are very amateur and sloppy. I'll admit to that right now. But I think the one thing we do successfully, which was the one big goal of it, was to show you what it's like to be from the perspective of the killers. And I think we answered that question really well. It's very thought-provoking, and I hope people get to talk about that now, and say like, oh, well, this was cool, but I wish they would have showed us this. You know what I mean? Like, that was the big thing. I just want people to talk about it. That was the big thing. After making this, I just want people to be able to talk about, like, what was Billy and Stu's whole situation? What was their red right hand like, essentially? Like, what was that movie like from their perspective? And I hope that it does that. I hope that it does that, if literally nothing else. That was the big thing. I just wanted to pose a question with this movie, and of course to make a fun film that people enjoyed and thought was a lot of fun and cool. Like, there's some really fun references and Easter eggs. There's little things that you might not even notice before people die. Like, I kind of predict their kills in a lot of ways. There's an American Psycho steelbook before Sean dies in that scene, or Max gets killed. You can see the steelbook in the background of one of the shots. Also on the big screen, before everyone starts throwing up at the party, you can see The Exorcist, the scene where she throws up on the priest. It's green puke and everyone's throwing up like the green punch. I thought that was pretty cool. There's nice little Easter eggs like that throughout the entire film, that kind of predict something that's going to happen to a film. It's all horror movie references too. So to me, it's like, this is a really fun Scream fan film that I just wanted fans to enjoy it and have a little appetizer for something to appease them until we get 6. You know what I mean? And I think we accomplished that.
I'm gonna say I think that you guys did an amazing job myself, and I was saying this off air because when I do these things, and I know Phoebe's gonna say something in the comments, so F you before I start this, but I try to look at things as objectively as I can. Like, of course, I'm gonna have my biases. I'm never gonna like Avatar. I will never get on that hype train, no matter how much you try to convince me. I clearly see something that people get dazzled with the special effects and don't. But thankfully, I've seen other reviewers who've pointed out the same things I have. But it's that the thing that I did notice too, and I looked at it as the inverse coming to this with a critique for it was that uh, to me, you did follow the structure of the formula. You just did it in reverse, where normal Scream movie template is you uncover the killer with clues and red herrings and things like that. You said, okay, here's the killer. Now guess how he's going to be stopped. And I think that in it within itself follows the formula. But most people won't pick that up because you get so conditioned watching movies that it has to be a certain way. So when you flip that, it's like, yeah, there is a mystery. The mystery is, what's the ending? If we already know the killer, okay, I know who the killer is. So what is the ending? And then it gets crazier and kind of wackier as you go. And then you're really sitting going, wow, like, what is the ending? Like, how is he going to face this other ghost mask? Are they going to have this big confrontation? Is the ghost mask actually care about him, or is it in his mind? Like, that to me was the questions, and you did for the most part, except for my little nitpicks with the Ghostface guy, and that was just because I loved his character so much. You do answer those questions like, hello, Lady Blood Moon, how are you? And if you guys don't know and you're just tuning in, please go check out Killjoy Jake's channel. He, besides doing a film, is also one of the awesome YouTube critics on here who specializes in horror movies. And apparently, you can't go by you don't have friends, but because but no, he does great reviews on horror movies. Go check out his channel, go check out his fan film, and then come back and you get a good insight into the process, because we've been sitting here for an hour talking about the creative process, which has been really fascinating, and getting to everything that goes into filmmaking. So if you're interested in that, go back to the beginning and check everything out. But anyways, so with getting this done, right, and actually completing it, does this put you in a place where it makes you more confident for your next film that I assume will be a original story, or is it like now you're more nervous because you're like, oh shit, man, there's so much pressure. We did this one thing and now I'm really like hunkering down and this is my idea. Like, oh God, or are you like, let's go. Let's get it.
Dude, I'll tell you right now, like, we have an idea. We want to start rolling with it. I can't, once again, I can't say anything yet. But what I will say is next year I plan on working on other people's projects for a bit. Like, I have 3 projects I'm already attached to that I'm going to be working on throughout 2023 that I'm really excited for. One actually just got announced. I can't talk about the other 2 yet, but I'm doing a movie with Sean, who plays Max in the American Psycho scene. He's directing a new movie called The Mummifier, and I'm really excited for it. It's about like this guy who makes mummies in the woods and shit. It's going to be sick. Yeah, I'm really pumped for it. I play a role in it, which once again, it's a secret role. I can't talk about it. I'm really excited to work on that next year, as well as 2 other roles. Well, I will also have some kind of acting role in these things, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But in the meantime, I am writing a feature-length script right now. I'm like maybe 10 pages into it, and I'm just spending the whole next year planning it out, writing it. I want to be so prepared for the next time, because like we were so unprepared for this one. I want to be like, I want to come to set the first day with like a shot list, like with every single shot. I'm like, here's what the B-roll shots are gonna look like. Here's what this we're doing medium shots for this bullshit. Like just a bunch of. I want to be stupid prepared for the next one, essentially. So this whole next year is gonna be about that and just YouTube stuff. But yeah, I'm really excited for it, and I want to talk about it more, but I can't yet.
Damn, I was hoping for like a Tom Holland moment. Love you, Tom. Uh, Lady Blood Moon. I know the cowboy hat is my thing, but unfortunately, with the style of headset I have to use because my mic is a little bit out of commission, um, I had to steal Jake's style, and because it's the only one that fits the headphones properly. And now I get why you wear those, um, because good lord, a cowboy hat does not support any headset very well. So don't worry, I'll be back on. I just got to buy a new cord for my microphone, which I'm currently working on, so that way it's not cutting in and out. I had a lot of issues with the audio, so that's why I'm. Yeah, now I'm dressing for the for the mood. Lempi says exactly. If you guys don't know, that says 1-800. Shut the fuck up. So that would be my critique to the critics of your movie, because um, I want to say, like, I encourage projects like this, and I think we talked about this before. I am a fan of smaller filmmakers because I think there's a problem in Hollywood where there's like this entrenched culture and these entrenched filmmakers who are kind of spit out of a factory almost, and they always follow the same template, the same ideas. And I think what we're missing now is that hunger for something new and creative and edging your own path, and Hollywood's hunger for taking risk on an idea that might not be the normal template. So yes, that is a new hat. Thank you, Lady Blood Moon. So um, it's kind of like this risk versus reward. Hollywood has uh, cut out the risk part, and they just want the reward. And I mean, man, we see this like the best comparison. I just got done, and I got to do a review for this along with 50 other things. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Now, if you look at that versus Disney's Pinocchio, who owns the property and created it, right? You would think that the one would trump the other. But Guillermo del Toro does stop motion animation and tells the darker version and literally like tugs at your heartstrings. It's very mature. It's kind of what I felt like Pinocchio was originally. That original animation is messed up. Like, if you watch it as a kid, go back through and watch that movie. Like, really watch it. That's a fucked up movie. Like that, like, people see, oh, Disney, themes, but if you look at the themes and what that movie is saying, and the part with the donkeys gave me nightmares forever. Like, there's some messed up visuals in that. And it comes back to this whole, like, a lot of studios took risks because you had to make a name for yourself. And, like, that's the biggest thing that I respect, especially with you and your film, is like, and just like the Damien Leones and things like that, the hunger to do something different. It might not be the best in every aspect, but just do something unique and different. And I think that more filmmakers should strive for that, as opposed to doing the same old shit we see constantly just because it's safe. And like with your new movies, you can't talk about, I know, I'm not going to trick you. Tom Holland would be easier. But like in your future filmmaking and stuff like that, uh, like, how far do you see yourself going with this kind of career? Because you're also pretty good as an actor. I gotta say, you kept me thoroughly entertained with Jamie. Like, like I said, it was like you at 11, and I was like, oh my god, I'd love to see a review like this, like an unhinged like Jamie character review from Killjoy Jake about a movie would be thoroughly entertaining. But I was like, does that, like, going forward, does that embolden you and make you want to be different? And like, where do you see yourself going now that you've officially, like, you've done what most people can't do? You made a movie, for better or for worse. You put your art out there, you put yourself out there, And like, where do you see it going from there? Do you want to do more of an actor? Do you want to do directing? Would you like to do M. Night Shyamalan vanity thing where you throw yourself into your movies? Like, where do you see this taking you in the future?
I would just love to like make weird little horror movies and hopefully sell them to like a streamer or something. Like that's honestly my big goal. If I can do that and act in other people's weird horror movies, that's my dream. Like I really want to play bad guys and shit. I have so much respect for creature actors. Like I mean, if it's David Howard Thornton, if it's oh my god, Andy Serkis, if it's Joseph Bishara in like the Conjuring movies or whatever. I love all those people so much. I would love to be a creature actor one day and just like play some weird monsters and all that. All those things. I'm not looking to be like the biggest filmmaker on the planet or anything like that. I just want to make my weird little horror movies and have a good time. I mean that's the big thing with it. I've always had such a passion with some of these some of the weirder stuff. I'm totally fine with just making that. Once again, it's not about like, oh, getting a movie in theaters. It's going to be all over the place. That's not what it's about for me. I just want to do like these weird movies that I personally really enjoy, and I just want to put them out for other people who who like them, even if they're like incredibly niche. That's just the big thing that I would like to do, and hopefully it takes me somewhere. That maybe, I don't know.
Like, and that's the thing that I commend too, because like with me and my channel, I came in with that kind of thing. Like, I don't want to be like Jake Paul numbers or something like that. I just like would like my own small corner with my own kind of people, and they can have fun in the chat. Like, looking at my chat now, they're all talking about the weather and different things, and I feel you because it's like -3 here, so it's
Yeah.
fucking cold. Um, but uh, you know, uh, I was never in it for like, say, just a monetary. That's just a bonus, and I think that uh, people feel that creativity and that stuff. Like, I almost think back to like James Cameron, Wes Craven, Ridley Scott, all of the great directors, John Carpenter, and often wonder, like, when you look at their projects and what they put out into the world, there's always this sense of wonderment and like almost like a playfulness around what they're doing. And I think you lose a lot of that these days. And I think I really respect where you're coming from, because it's that feeling of just doing what you like to do and not being hamstring. Like, it's funny you mentioned Andy Serkis. Like, I think people really, really don't understand how great that guy is,
Yeah.
and how much he's had his fingers into some of the most popular uh, pop culture media of all time, and yet you don't notice the guy who mocaps Golem, or is the side character in Andor, but arguably one of the greatest like arcs there. And but he gives me that sense like he does it because he's interested in what he's doing and not for the glory, right? Because there'd be a lot of times Andy Serkis is in something, I'm like, holy shit, Andy Serkis is in this,
And you don't even know. Yeah.
and you don't even know, you don't realize till you see him on screen, and you're like, oh, okay, well, yeah. Like, if you're a fan of him, if you follow his work, then you know who he is. But if you're someone just coming in, you're like, this guy's really good. Like, then you forget about it. And I think there's a certain kind of charm to that. So, of course, I'm going to start bringing stuff to a close, because I know we've been going for 2 hours. I could literally go all night, like, with just like how much effort. And I would encourage everyone, please go and support this film. Leave your comments. Uh, Jake's got a very thick skin. Be honest, and
Yeah.
let him know how you
Yeah.
feel. He
No, be
encourages.
honest. I wanna do better in the future. So I do want to see the criticisms. And like I said, there have been there've been some reviews that I'm like, okay, you just missed the point. But there are other reviews where I'm like, I genuinely am seeing this from a whole nother angle now, and I'm like, oh wow, I never even thought about that. I wish we would have thought about that on set. So no, criticism is the only way you can grow. So I love it.
Yeah, so go up there, check his movie out, and leave some comments and interact, because Jake also too on his channel creates a very conversational filled place, and I like that because we see a lot of YouTubers, we know some, or we know the other circles where it's just bashing something and there's no real conversation. And I've always respected, and it's been a big thing on my channel, talking and interacting, and the community interacting with each other. And I think it's great. I think we need to promote more content creators who foster an environment of talking things out. And people have seen me and PB. You've been on panels with me and PB, and it would appear that we go at each other constantly, but it's a loving kind of critique, and I think a lot of that is missing from the way we interact. A lot of things, especially with the way society is, we misconstrued as people being vicious, and it's just fun, good old fashioned debate. And I think we need to encourage more of that. Because I know you must have got some comments about Halloween Ends, man. The comment section must have been lively. Because I got comments from defending it. I don't even know how the other end was. Like, I was just like, it wasn't that bad. People were like, what do you mean it's an abomination? Chill. And then you're on the other end, and you probably got those comments like, you don't see the brilliance behind what they were doing.
Yeah, and that was probably the first review. If I go down that whole rabbit hole, this stream will go on for another hour. But just to sum it up quick, it's like, yeah, I mean, it was like we had a stream the other day. We were talking about what's the best horror movie of 2022, and we let people vote. The Halloween Ends made it all the way to the end. Like, Halloween Ends made it up until the last two. I was like, I was shocked. Like, I knew people liked it, but I didn't think people liked it that much. And I was like, wow, okay, that's impressive, man.
And I would agree, because even on my top horror movies, I didn't put it out in there, and people were like, oh, with the way you said it was okay. And I'm like, look, I can like something, but acknowledge the fact that if it's going like against Terrifier 2 or The Menu or something like that, it's not even a contest. Like, you're talking about an artistry versus like, I enjoyed it, but I see the flaws. The truth of the matter is that it had something for me, whereas Jake look at it and go, oh, this is trash, because it didn't hit for him. And he made good points on it. We all discussed it with me, you, Justin. You and Justin were in one camp, me and PB were in the other. Go check that out. It was very humorous. And I think we touched on a lot of good points. And that's the beautiful thing about film. It's always been subjective. Like, yes, we can agree on films where politics is totally the message, and we all universally say, like, hey, stop doing this. Like, come on. You don't need to put politics into movies because it's escapism. But there's those other movies, like Halloween Ends, where there's no politics, but now we're just judging on film. So it becomes very divisive, because depending on the person you are, it's highly subjective what you get out of the movie. And that's where you get into that gray area where the critiques are now not about the modern politics, it's about the movie itself. And that's where you get into the territorial thing, because then you got the old school Halloween fans versus the new ones. I like zombie Halloweens. People hate him. Like, I think he did a good job. I think he also did a poor job with some of it, but that's a discussion for another day. But I mean, it's one of those things where film then becomes purely subjective, and not everybody's going to get the same thing out of the same product. And that, to me, is what a good movie is. And I think that you created a very good film, because clearly you got this debate started and this talk started, and that's what movie is supposed to be. It's supposed to like spark that conversation and get people talking. So on that end, I think you were successful. So kudos to you. I respect the hell out of what you did. I look forward to your future projects. Are you sure you don't want to spoil anything, just really quickly, and maybe like give a little?
I'll say this. I'll say this. I think the next thing I'm writing is gonna make Red Right Hand look like it was made for children.
Ooh, all right, that's a
Yeah.
bold Ryan Johnson claim, man.
I know. I shouldn't be that cocky, but I'm pretty confident in the next thing. It's gonna be pretty dark, pretty fucked up. If 70-30, like 70% comedy, 30% dark shit in Red Right Hand, it's gonna be the opposite for the next thing. So I think people will like that though.
I really look forward to all your upcoming projects. Hopefully we can do this again. I really like having these conversations. I think we always dive really deep. So hopefully I can track your career, and when you become really famous, I can be like, hey, I know that guy. I knew him when he was just talking about horror movies.
Well, thanks, man.
No, you got a great channel. Everybody go check it out. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm trying to give myself an hour break because I do have my top 5 list of 2022, which I'm sure is going to be in contention because people already know some of my list. Nick Cage is going to be on there. If you, Jake hasn't been on my channel that long, and he knows my feelings on Nick Cage. So it'll be fun. Check us out at 6:00 for the Late Night Talk Special Edition Top 5 Movies of 2020. Now, I had my top 20, and the reason why we did top 5 is because it's a surprise. Me and PB are cooking a little surprise for you guys, so come back and check it out. I think it'll be fun. We're all going to do our list of top movies, and we're going to compare them. So come and check it out and see how wildly different our film going year has been and who's got what on their list. Because out of all of us, I've seen the most movies, but I think it'll be really interesting. Hopefully Jake can check that out and kind of chuckle because I'm sure your top list will be vastly different than ours. There were so many good horror movies, man. I had to actually do a separate horror movie list because if I put them against the normal movies this year, half of my list would have been horror.
Yeah, dude. Oh my god.
It's been a great year to be a horror fan. I'll say this has been one of the best years and memories I could remember of so much good horror content out. And like I said, you've covered even stuff I haven't. So it's just amazing. And so I had to be yeah, I just got to put normal movies in one bracket, horror movies in the other, and kind of not intermingle them because it would ruin it. Hey, Jane Creek, good to see you. And yes, we will be back in an hour to do our Late Night Talk special. But for now, Mr. Killjoy Jake, what do you got coming out? I know you're doing a ton of stuff on Scream 6. You're I check your videos out every day to be ooh, what nugget does Jake have on?
Well, so I do got to get moving. I got a live stream that starts in 4 minutes, but I do want to say with Killjoy Jake, yeah, where I'm just doing horror updates over there, talking about horror movies that are coming out soon in the future. So go check it out. I do live streams every now and then. We're doing brackets on Wednesday now. We're ranking stuff every middle of the week. It's gonna be a lot of fun doing that. And like I said, I have a lot of weird projects in the works, so stay tuned.
Yeah, so definitely stay tuned for that. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Click that like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube things. Check us out in about an hour for my Late Night Talks, top 5 movies of 2022. Go check out Killjoy Jake. He's got an amazing channel. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Hopefully you got an insight to the movie making process, and hopefully we can do this again sometime on your next feature film when you make it big in Hollywood, and I'll have the first dibs on the interview. So go check out his channel. He's doing some great things over there. And as always, remember the only rule here in the Fandom Zone: kneel before General Zod.